And we've got a guarantee that from 2013 that simply cannot happen. So it's a very early stage. We don't yet know whether there'll be treaty change. If there is, how big it will be, what exactly it will refer to, etc., etc. So I think we have to not get overexcited about this, but obviously any treaty change in the future does give you an opportunity to advance your own national interests, and that is what, of course, I would always aim to do. Let's have gentleman here.
Ed Conway, Sky News. Are you content, given that there was lots of talk over the weekend about the crisis and yet we haven't had the decisive resolution that a lot of people have been looking for, are you content that the British economy and British banks are safe in the result that there is some market disappointment?
Well, I think in terms of Britain's situation, we obviously did recapitalise our banks in a much more extensive way than other European countries some time ago. And obviously you have to keep that under review, and we have to make sure our economy is always safeguarded. But the steps we've taken in terms of bank recapitalisation, in terms of having a clear fiscal plan, I think do give us an advantage. And obviously outside the euro, we've had a significant depreciation of sterling over previous years, which puts us in a more competitive position. Now, the banking recapitalisation, what the British influence here has been to say, look, if we're going to deal with these Eurozone problems, we need decisive, bold, big action. That's what the big bazooka referred to. I think what we're seeing is growing understanding in Europe that that is what needs to happen. It's difficult to make this happen, and that's why it's taking a number of meetings to get everyone to the right place. But I think the key elements that we need, bank recapitalisation, a larger EFSF, clarity about how we deal with some of the situations, including in Greece. I think those elements are beginning to come into place, and I think that Britain has played an important role outside the Eurozone, but trying to help push that along by making these arguments and making them clearly and strongly. Gentleman here.
Martin Geisler from ITV News. You're leaving now, Prime Minister. I know you said there will be another council meeting before the end of the Eurozone meeting on Wednesday, but how frustrating is it being on the outside of this looking in, and given the level of British interest in all of this, how convinced are you that Britain's concerns and Britain's interests in this are being properly represented?
Well, I don't find it frustrating because I'm not in the euro, and I don't want Britain to join the euro. And if we were in the euro, then we would have to be, we would have been more involved in previous things like the Greek bailout, which we managed to stay out of. So, the fact we're not there is because we have our own currency, and I think it's in our national interest to have our own currency, setting our own interest rates to suit our own economy. I was in the Treasury when we were in the exchange rate mechanism, and I swore then never again. The euro is like the ERM without an exit. So I think this is the right place for the British economy to be. But we are constructive. We are members of the European Union. We play a constructive role. We have frank conversations with our friends in the Eurozone about what needs to be done. I believe they're taking those steps, and it's very much in our interest that they do. 40% of our exports go to Eurozone countries. So, in order to get a British recovery, we need a Eurozone recovery too. So it's in our interests, and I think we're playing a constructive role. And I think it's right that on Wednesday there'll be another European Council that can feed into the Eurozone meeting, and also finally agree the bank recapitalisation scheme, which obviously needs all members of the European community to come together to do that. Last couple.
Bruno Waterfield, Daily Telegraph. Can you tell us a bit more about the nature of the safeguards that decisions will, on the single market, financial services, be taken at the level of 27? And surely a concrete way of ensuring that was the case would be to have the European Council next week after the Eurozone meeting and not before it. Did you ask for that? And if you did, what was the response?
Well, there was a discussion about when best to hold the European Council, and there are disadvantages and advantages either way. If you go in advance, as we're going to, you've got the opportunity to feed into the Eurozone meeting. If you go afterwards, there's a danger that if you try to unpick what's been agreed, that would be very damaging for market confidence. So I actually think this is probably the right way round. I'm happy with what we are going to be doing, and I think it gives an opportunity for countries that are, not just Britain, but also, countries like Sweden and Poland push very strongly for this too, and I think it gives them the opportunity to have their voice heard. In terms of the safeguards, look, I think this is a developing situation. What you've got going on in Europe at the moment is the Eurozone countries coming together, recognising they've got to do more things together, and frankly it's in Britain's interest that they do sort out the problems that there are. But there is a danger, which I've identified and spoken about frankly, which is as that Eurozone coming together happens, there is a risk that those countries out of the Euro might see some of the things that are vital to them in the single market, for instance, financial services, they might see the Eurozone members starting to take decisions that impact on the single market. So I think it's very important in the conclusions language that it talks about a level playing field, it talks about protecting the interests of all member states, including those that do not participate in the Euro. But this is a developing story, just as the Eurozone coming together and coordination is a developing story, so the protection that we will need to make sure the single market is respected is also a developing story too. But all I can say is I'm happy with the way it's developing. Gentleman here.
David Tweed from Bloomberg. Just on the bank recapitalisation, can you confirm that they're discussing a figure of about 100 billion euros, and do you consider that that's going to be enough?
I don't want to confirm any figures. As I said, final decisions have to be taken, final announcements have to be made, but I know that the Chancellor of the Exchequer, in a very long meeting yesterday, made an extremely important contribution to make sure that these bank stress tests are credible. Because, as well as the number, what matters is that the markets see what is happening as what needs to be done. And you can't quite put a number on that. It's actually about the people have the confidence that the Eurozone and right across Europe were putting in place what's needed to prevent any contagion and any problems from decisive action. That is the absolute key, and I'm confident that we're making good progress. Still, there's still a way to go, but I think compared with some weeks ago, I think progress is being made. We need further progress to that decisive solution, and I'm very, very determined that Britain is going to play a responsible part in helping to bring people together to make that happen. Thank you very much indeed for coming. Look forward to seeing you at a European Council, well, sooner than we thought, but on Wednesday. Thank you very much.